Welcome back here to the Calling in Las Vegas. I'm Tannen Grace, and I'm joined here by Armada. Armada, that last round I watched a little bit from the side. I saw multiple players at one for like multiple turns. Looked kind of crazy.
Yeah, that was the distillation of a full-on end game. One player literally ran down to no cards in hand, no cards in deck.
Yeah.
That is the quintessential way a control deck wants to win a game if they had their like perfect druthers. It was crazy to watch. It was crazy to jump in when both players were at one and then see it all the way play out. It was very fun.
I think I actually could see more of it than you did because I was out there like walking around. I walked up and I took a peek. And I was like, oh, this game looks really close. I saw the life totals. I got nervous like watching it. I had to walk away a little bit. But so we're starting to get really deep into this tournament, right? We're moving into round 10. And we're starting to see everyone kind of rise to the top and maybe fall off just a little bit. So we're seeing where people are ending up here in the standings.
Right.
And we're going to take a
still have to be very good in order to pull off a no-loss record.
absolutely.
Very, very good. And if we could, going back to that standings page, taking a look at some of the that could go really any direction. It's going to be a really, really fun one to watch.
Right now, we see where people are standing here on day two. We're talking a little bit about these decks. Now, let's talk about the breakdown of what decks made day two and how much they're represented here at this tournament. And you're going to be able to see that there is a clear favorite deck for play-wise. Seeing this in the standings, these decks are doing well. So you saw a bunch of other decks that were still a high percentage of the metagame.
That's right.
And things like that. So, yeah, Chain's doing really well. It's getting played a lot.
Bravo, sitting at 14%. And this is a crazy one. All throughout day one, I think we literally only saw one Dorinthia played on stream, and yet Dorinthia is showing very well here on day two, sitting towards the top of that play. Of course, Chain is eclipsing the meta to 44% because he is so powerful, because he can do so many crazy things. But like Dorinthia, 11%. Prism, 11%. Katsu, which has in many respects, if you're playing the aggro, has a really good matchup against Chain, sitting at 9%. And look at the very bottom, Kano.
Got that 2%er. He
Kano
got in.
Player. I really want to know. And this is just me personally. I really want to know how he's doing.
Oh, I do as well after watching that match. If we can stay here for just a second, I want to talk a little bit. I was looking at the top tables, and I saw an actual good mix in the top tables. A decent bit of Chain. I saw a lot of Bravo towards the top. I think that one's doing really well for how many players are representing it.
Yes.
You kind of mentioned Dorinthia, same thing. Prism, I think, has got to be one of the breakout decks for me this weekend, how well it's doing, because while it only represents 11% of this day two metagame, I'm seeing a lot of players at the top of the list, and we're seeing Tyler here getting coverage a lot. We saw a mirror last round as well between two Prism players. So I think that's been like one of the surprises of the tournament for me, is like a breakout deck, doing a little better than maybe we expected.
And if we revisit what was sort of the consensus at the Road to Nationals season, with people saying, a lot of people are playing Prism, but Prism is not winning or converting those top finishes very much. Perhaps this is one of those pet classes and pet heroes that people just love, but it just can't get over the hump. And yet, here, we see some absolute top pinnacle play on Prism, just winning games.
Oh, absolutely. Do you think it has a little bit to do with maybe it being well positioned this weekend for decks maybe not being able to block great against it?
Well, I mean, if you look at Chain and you're playing a Herald down, there are not many options for destroying Heralds as Chain. And if you're playing the control variant that can sort of generate some really crazy turns with Tome of Divinity all of a sudden out of nowhere, or even just making Spectral Shields, those can be so tricky. and can be executed so well that you can just come out of nowhere and do something crazy and steal a game. And perhaps the play of these Prism players is catching people off guard, and maybe these preconceived notions of Prism not being a class that can just cut in and steal something, maybe we see those preconceived notions kind of shot down a little bit.
Absolutely. You know, I had a preconceived notion of watching Prism, right? Big Angel attacks you, you get a one-hit trigger, something happens. We saw a match earlier where it was a control matchup against the Prism, and they were going to try to run it out of cards and be able to block once or twice, and he just made a whole bunch of spectrals and attacked for one, one, and won the game that way. It was really great to watch.
Exactly.
Now, it sounds like that we have deck lists ready for our next round. We're going to be moving into round 10 here. And we talked a little bit about the players and what decks they were playing. Let's take a look at the cards. And you were talking about this one quite a bit.
Yeah, we've seen Tyler on stream several times now. Honestly, it was fantastic to watch him play these past few games, and I am looking forward to him continuing to show us how to play this sort of control style Prism that runs Fate for Scenes, Sink Below, Prismatic Shields, Sigil of Solace. I don't think I've seen a Prism list lately besides this one that runs just all three red Sigils of Solace to gain 3 in Classic Constructed. It's just one of those lists that he knows just back to front.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm 100% agree with you. The Sigil definitely threw me off. He's even got snags in there for, the matchups where those are really good. Those are really good in the chain matchup, for instance. He's really prepared for this tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the guys that makes top 8 and really makes a deep run here today because he seems to really know what's going on. He's doing really well in his deck. Now, I'm super excited for our next deck. It's a deck that we haven't seen too much, a hero that we haven't seen too much on the on screen this weekend. But we got to give a little love to Bravo. We've got a great cosplayer out there cosplaying
Yes.
Bravo. Have you seen it?
Yes.
He's got it down to the chest here. I mean, he is on point.
Absolutely nailed it. I don't know how he went about doing it. He just practiced. He grew it out. Just
hair.
Nailed the hair.
Love it. Absolutely. Now, when you look at this deck, is this kind of a typical Bravo deck that we're going to be seeing normally, or is there anything kind of standing out for you?
It is very typical. It is very much like what Bravo wants to do. We got the one Remembrance in there. My favorite little piece in this that is an inclusion from Monarch is the 3 red Zealous Beltings. Zealous Belting is a really fun card that made its way into Bravo. It's a generic. Blocks for 2, so oftentimes you're like, I don't know if I want to run generics, but it just works. It just works in Bravo. And this is being played by Christopher Clay, a Houstonian, my hometown, and I believe he was undefeated all day on round 1 with this deck, and he is only 1 loss today.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? Enough talking about these 2 decks. Let's see him play against each other. We're going to move down to the feature match here for round 10. We're going to have Bravo versus Prism. Can Christopher Clay's Bravo deck stop this onslaught that we've been seeing from Tyler in his Prism deck these last few rounds? And another thing that I wanted to point out for this match that might be pretty important, is Bravo good at blocking in this matchup?
So here's the thing. Bravo has an incredible matchup against Aggro Prism, because Aggro Prism wants to play a bunch of Heralds that can be destroyed by 6 power or higher things. And that's, by the way, what Bravo plays, 6 power and higher things. So this isn't like a very difficult matchup if you're playing Aggro Prism from that perspective, but he's not. Tyler, we know, is not playing that. Tyler is playing quintessential control, make Spectral Shields Prism, and that has a much better matchup in this scenario. So it's going to be fascinating to see who can get there throughout. We have the Seismic Surge token was created on Chris's first turn. Looks like the Arclight Sentinel was also created at the end and perhaps then destroyed. Nevertheless, it is a very weird opening there to create a Seismic Surge and then pass right over. And look at this.
Bit of Herald of Erudition right off the bat here.
Right, and a very easily poppable Herald of Erudition. And that's likely what we're going to see happen. This is the strange thing about playing Heralds into this matchup is you basically just everything dies, everything explodes.
Oh, absolutely, because you're going to see these attack cards that have such high powers from the Bravo player. And just for everybody watching at home, the Bravo player is going to be looking to get just 1 attack off, generally a turn, these high power attacks, and they have the ability Crush. So when one of these hits for 4 or more, you're going to have some big time on hit effects. You're going to see if that starts happening early or mid part of this game, the game can spiral out of control quite quickly.
That's correct. Look at this. This is a very interesting thing. Pitching a Crippling Crush red so that you can set it to the bottom of the deck for a late game scenario, only attacking with Anothos for 6. And then a heal off the top, the Sigil of Solace coming from the hand, and a Soul Shield blocking a 6-power Anothos. What a weird turn. It's so fun. And a flash of the, oh my goodness, a flash of the Tome of Divinity. The Soul Shield goes to Soul. That turns on Tome of Divinity, drawing 3 cards. A second Tome of Divinity. This could be insane. And do keep in mind, this is all powered by that Soul Shield going to Soul, Vestige of Soul triggering, allowing you to pitch 1 blue card and chain this together. This is incredible. This is, I think he has a 6-card hand or maybe a 7-card hand right now.
This has got to be the biggest hand I've ever seen of a physical, actual hand, not using your Banish Zone for extra cards.
This is exactly what you want when you play Prism. You want to hit tome into tome into tome. And here he's strung 2 of them together, and he could just do some crazy stuff.
We're going to see Tyler probably has so many options. It's going to take him a minute to go through all of them, figure out exactly what he's supposed to do here. It looks like, all right, we are going to be starting off with a Wartune Herald here as an attack.
Yep. Wartune Herald red, attacking for 7, can be destroyed by 6 power or greater. It's interesting, too. Of course, he's pitching a yellow, but the yellow he pitched is Celestial Cataclysm, a card that's going to be great if he can load his soul up. But that's going to be very difficult in this matchup because in order to load your soul up, traditionally, you just want Heralds to hit. And many times those... Wow. He doesn't block with a 6 power. Instead, he blocks with Stamp Authority and both of his equipment, Arcanite Skullcap and... the Tectonic Plating. And look at this. A Fable alert. We have the Great Library of Solana. 2 yellows. He's drawn 5 cards this turn, plus the Arsenal.
So while it might not have been a big turn for attacks here after drawing all these cards, this is a big turn for setup, right? Like we've got a library going now, a lot of extra cards. I want to know, does Bravo have a lot of yellow cards that let him, take care of this library uneasily?
Absolutely not. Bravo is a red and blue deck. You play red attacks that cost $1 billion, and then you pitch away blue cards, oftentimes many of the cards in your hand to pay for those expensive attacks. And here we see a second Crippling Crush just pitched away for late game so that you can attack for 6 with an Othos. This is quintessential control play, stacking the bottom, and another Sigil of Solace red. Chris is playing with 46 health as a Bravo control player.
He's one of the higher life totals I've seen this weekend. And so, like, you're talking about this, setting up for the late game. I think this is something we've seen these players do in these kind of control matchups. They're going to make sure the bottom of their deck is stacked with a bunch of really good cards. So the super impactful turns, they have those ready for those. You see Christopher using his weapon a lot here. Is that him, making sure that A, he gets that late game setup, and B, is he making sure that if he can keep an attack in his hand to block more profitably every turn?
It's both, and not only that, it's also the idea that this Anothos, based on how I'm pitching, is attacking for basically free damage. I am not spending a single card to send 6 damage your way, and that's the beauty of the way that he's pitching, the way that he's playing. By the way, he's also every single turn triggering that Tectonic Plating effect, creating a Seismic Surge token. He's never making use of Seismic Surge, which reduces the cost of a Guardian attack action by 1, but he's doing this anyway because it allows him to put cards into his pitch zone that make Anothos stronger. Here we have just a casual flash down of an Arclight Sentinel saying, yeah, I'm going to play this down. You're not going to have absolutely anything to do on your turn. You're Anothos. If you're going to attack again, it's just going to hit this Arclight Sentinel. And oh, by the way, yeah, there's 2 yellows pitched. Oh, look at this. We have the Zealous Belting we were talking about earlier coming down and just absolutely saying, nope, see you later, bye.
Looks like Tyler's going to clean the stuff up here, arsenal a card. Going to draw back up to 4, and we're going back over to Christopher Clay's turn here.
In fact, he's drawing to 5 because he got to pitch 2 yellows.
Oh, that's right, up to 5.
Such an interesting counterplay between these 2 decks because, as you mentioned, rightfully so, there's almost no way that Bravo can take away that card advantage, that 5-card advantage here for Library of Solana. You almost have to just search and keep yellow cards so that you can try at some point to destroy this, because if you just continue to let this snowball, you have no way to really deal with it.
This is something that could be game-breaking, right, if it's around for this long?
It certainly could be. It's very interesting to watch this play out over multiple turns because it's hard for him to remove that. He doesn't play yellows really.
What's the longest you've ever seen a library last in a game? Because I think this is going to be the new record.
I think we're about to see it, yeah. We have the Arclight Sentinel Destruction via a Nothos pitching a blue to attack for 4. He popped down a Merciful Retribution, so it's, and then a Genesis. The Merciful Retribution here is a fun play because when he destroys Arclight Sentinel, it's going to go to Soul, which is great, and it's also going to deal 1 damage back to Chris, so it's free damage just whenever he wants it. And then he triggers the Genesis, which on the beginning of his turn is going to allow him to sink cards into Soul. This is how he can create Spectral Shields going forward and play those Celestials that can't be destroyed.
Yeah, and he's not even losing that much card advantage here because sometimes they trigger both ends, so they get the Spectral Shield and he gets to draw an extra card here. So we're seeing a control deck actually have one of the best setups it could possibly have this early in a game. You've got to feel like even though he's at 45, the Christopher Clay has got to be a decent bit behind here, right?
Very much. This is a fine matchup for Tyler's version of Prism. A control Prism has a very fun time making a bunch of small Spectral Shields against a Bravo player who plays defense reactions, who plays and is okay with blocking with cards from hand, but you're just going to start stealing cards by just attacking over and over with all these auras, pitching yellows, creating Spectrals. Very, very dangerous. If you're Christopher Clay looking at this and saying, how am I going to deal with all of these varied threats?
Yeah, we talked about this one of the earlier rounds when we had Tyler. He was attacking with a bunch of these Spectral Shields. This is the situation I talk about with it. Blocking with a card from hand feels so bad.
And not only that, he's blocking with a Command and Conquer. There's a big block, just avoiding. Spinning that over, passing on over. I would imagine he also attacked here with the other, like with Genesis and with Merciful Retribution. I'm not sure if that was indicated or not, but you can attack with those as well. Oh, you know what? He couldn't. I apologize. He pitched a blue.
Yeah, I was going to say no yellow in the pitch zone here.
That's right. Oh, look at this. The string together showing the power needed on the Rouse the Ancients to give it the attack. Otherwise, Rouse the Ancients doesn't actually attack for anything.
Yeah, it has 0, right?
Yep.
But you need to show that you have, what, 13 power?
Yeah, I believe it's 13 power off the top of my head, and you reveal that so that this can attack, and with Go Again as well. And he just content to let that soak and take some damage so that he can then, I guess, do tricky things with his hand, most likely, going forward.
Yeah, you got to believe maybe Christopher Lay. Would you be considering attacking one of these auras at some point in time soon?
It is very possible that you just say, okay, and we saw the Zealous Belting. Zealous Belting could also get Go Again if you have the setup in your hand, and we know he has Cranial Crush, which does have more power. So you could either choose to just attack your opponent with Zealous Belting and Go Again, or you could choose to pitch one of those 2 cards, send a Nothos over, and destroy either of those auras.
Right, and so this situation, does it make it awkward for the Bravo player to attack since most of his cards want to attack face, so they get those on-hit effects, but you have these huge cards with huge amount of power, it almost feels like a waste maybe to attack some of these smaller auras.
This entire matchup is awkward for this Bravo player because you have to deal with so many threats, as we were saying earlier, and this is going to ping back 1. Merciful Retribution is so good in this matchup because no matter what, it's always going to send 1 damage back, and if they don't remove it, if they're trying to remove Genesis, for example, it sends 1 back and sinks Genesis into Soul. Or any of those Spectral Shields, it sends 1. This is a very dangerous matchup for a Control Bravo player, namely just because this is Control, all about Spectrals, all about tricks.
Yeah, and to your point, you definitely saw Christopher Clay use his weapon there to attack down the aura, so that way he doesn't lose like the big attacks that come out of his hands. So we're back over to the Prism side of the board at Tyler's turn. Let's see what he's got going on here.
Triggered Genesis so that he could sink and make a Spectral Shield. And then playing more Spectral Shields out there, dropping down 3 Spectral Shields off the Prismatic Shield. A great card in this matchup because it's basically 4 Kodachis.
Yeah, absolutely, because there is a yellow card in the pitch this time. So
Yep.
Here we go. We keep talking about this. If you like Kodachi, if you like Katsu, this is maybe a deck for you because you're doing a little bit better of the Kodachi dance in these mid-games.
That's true. I mean, if you like playing a ton of little things that just go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, this is a deck. This is the style of deck for you. And he is playing it, as we've seen, to near perfection at an 8-1 record. Fantastic play, as we're seeing. It just chews through people.
Yeah, we're down to 5 spectral shields, up to 5 spectral shields here attacking. The Genesis even gets in 1. Christopher Clay down to 36 from that high 40s life total that he had earlier. I'm going to say in this spot, I think the life totals are going to be like, do you think they're like pretty irrelevant until late in the game when the last couple points are going to get getting in? Because it's more about setting up here.
It is very difficult to look at these life totals and treat them as accurate. There's that red Zealous belting we saw. He chose to Arsenal it earlier. Playing it, it does trigger. It would appear it triggers because Buckling Blow is there in the pitch. So this does have go again. And this is why I like Zealous belting for Bravo. I think it's a great addition. It's really fun. It's one of those things where Bravo going into Monarch was literally just all about, I'm only going to play one big attack. I'm not going to do anything else. And then we got a few tools like Rouse the Ancients and Zealous belting that allow Bravo to put on multiple pressures on a turn and give them another avenue to attack the player. If they're not ready for it, then they're going to be surprised by like a Zealous belting into another powerful attack, or even to an Anothos, which is what we're seeing here.
It looks like a couple blocks here on the Tyler side on the Zealous belting, but the Anothos is going to actually finally take care of the Genesis. So we got the 2 auras down. The library's still there, getting a lot of value. You still got a ton of spectral shields. There's multiple cards in the soul. If you're Tyler, yeah, you lost your 2 auras these last few turns, but you can't be feeling that bad about this spot where you're at.
Totally agree. And if you're Chris, I feel like you just feel so discouraged. You're having to send so many resources to just dealing with these persistent threats. And you're like, okay, I dealt with that one. Oh no, we have an Ode to Wrath. Now I have to deal with that too. And Ode to Wrath is dangerous because if this, if your cards are dealing damage, they're losing life on top of that. And so there's just so many little combos in Control Prism that can just be too much to deal with, and mentally too.
Oh, absolutely. At some point in time, you get kind of fed up, right? Or you just kind of forget the little things and stuff. I know I would, but
it can be very tilting, and that is something that plays to the advantage of Control Prism. You almost universally someone will get tilted playing against this because it's just so much to deal with.
Yeah, let's talk about one of these little small synergies that we were talking about here. We've got this Ode to Wrath to play these spectral shields attacking, and Ode to Wrath says whenever source you control deals damage to an opposing hero, they lose another life.
That's correct.
So it's kind of buffing up these spectral shields. You're going wide, attacking with these ton of things on the side. So now they're becoming real threats.
You know what these are like, right? Pistol for 2. Pistol for 2.
2.
Pistol for 2.
We
Pistol
go
for
again.
2. Let's go. This is exactly what you're afraid of. And look, he's just taking.
This looks like 10.
Ode to Wrath, by the
damage.
way, taking. This is so scary. So scary. As a Bravo player, put yourself in this perspective. What do
I have to?
I'm going to ask the question,
sure.
so yes, you have to. Here we go. What do you do to stop this? What do you do?
I'm unsure. I'm annoyed if I'm in the seat of the Bravo player here because I just keep getting this death by 1,000 cuts thing going on. I keep getting take one. Oh, by the way, this turn it's 2. It's 2. It's 2. You know, you're getting attacked by the pistol over and over again, like you said. And from here, I mean, you got to present some kind of big attack to get these spectral shields off the board.
That's exactly right. I think that is that, and perhaps this is why we saw Chris take all of those points of damage. He just says, I'm keeping my hand. I am dominating a crippling crush or something to this effect, and I am starting to rip stuff from you because I can't have you do this to me turn after turn. I need to present some threat that you just actually can't deal with. And, you know, maybe it's something along the lines of a dominated big ol' crush effect attack. And look, here we have a Herald of Rebirth blue and a pop on the Herald immediately.
Yeah, at least that is a small victory for Chris this turn. He does get the very good block here on that Herald coming from Arsenal that is going to end Tyler's turn. He's going to clean up all his... He's got so many things.
But, by the way, did you see I get to draw 5 cards? And I'll take my 5-card hand, please, and thank you as we pass over.
I think I'm getting a new favorite deck.
It is a lot of fun. It is very skill-intensive, too. And so
wait, never mind. That might not be for me then.
If you enjoy that sort of thing, knowing when to play auras, knowing when to protect the spectral shields, and when to just say, okay, that's fine, it is very skill-intensive. And Tyler clearly has the skill. He's been putting on a clinic all day.
Yeah. Christopher's turn was Anothos attacking down that aura that we were talking about. So he's going to stymie that attack just a little extra damage coming off. He's going to Arsenal a card. We're moving back over to Tyler, who's got a backup Ode to Wrath. So you know what's better than 1? That would be the second
Oh,
copy once you
no.
destroy the first.
And again, this is why I said it. It can be just so tilting. I finally dealt with this next threat. Oh, and there it is again. So incredibly painful at times.
It looks like Tyler's going to start off here with attack for 2. And do you feel this is when desperation starts sinking when you see the possible blocks from hand at this point?
Yes, it definitely. No, he looks like he's just going to take it all. And I think that's, again, the right play. You have to pick your moment. You have to take your damage. And you have to say, I need to present a threat.
Yeah, at this point, I like talking about these situations where you're so far behind that you know you're going to have to get lucky or you're going to have to take a risk to get there. And so instead of playing not to lose, you need to play to win. Like, how do I win from this point?
That's correct. And, oh, no, he flashes another Prismatic Shield red. 3 more Spectrals. And this is after Chris just took all of the Spectral damage. And the turn is not over. There are 3 more Spectrals coming out. There are 3 more going to be flying over.
I think Tyler has made so many Spectral Shields that he's actually run out of tokens, and he's not going to have to use dice to represent the extra ones that he's got, because we've now got up to 8.
Look at this. He's gonna have to flip the one that's been used, flip the one that hasn't been used.
I want to point out how easy it was for him to do that dexterous move right there. This is a man that has done this multiple times.
Dexterous. That is so killer. Look at this. He's going to block with a red pummel for 2. Look at him go. He needs, because he obviously on a D6 you can't flip to 7, so he's going to have to switch the dice out. And there it is. There's the cards blocking from hand to turn. And to me, this very much signals like perhaps the beginning of the end. If you're having to send cards from your hand to block 2s, then you are down. And as Bravo player, it's very tough to play just a 1-card hand. All you're doing is an Oathosing. And he does end up popping the Ode to Wrath, which is exactly the right thing you have to do. Slow down that damage.
Yeah, Chris Clay going to slow down some of that damage a little bit. There's still those 8 Spectral Shields on the other side. He's going to end his turn with an Arsenal, drawing up to 4. We're moving back over to Tyler here, and Tyler, a lot of options. It looks like we're actually going to have another Genesis here, pitching what looks like a yellow card, so his stuff's going to have go again here. And going to start out with an attack from this Genesis.
This is all you have to do if you're playing Control Prism into the Bravo matchup. You are content to play every aura in the world, to jam them all down, and to just say 1 over and over and over again. Down to 13. He's going to say, oh, I've got some cards in hand. He could still make some interesting plays. He could also just say another 8 or 7 or 6 or 5 or 4. You just keep counting.
Absolutely. Here comes that first attack in from a Spectral Shield. Probably going to be followed up for quite a few more.
7 more, perhaps.
At the least. At the least.
And I like what he's doing here, too. He's keeping 3 cards in his soul so that whenever he draws into one of those Celestials he's pitched early game, he, at that moment, can go Spectral 7 times or 8 times, whatever, and then drop a 7 attack go again. And this is perfect timing, too, because, look, he's dropped Chris down to 5, and if he can steal cards from hand with all of these Kodachis, essentially, then dropping a 7 with go again for basically nothing is going to be a game winner.
Speaking of game winners, is almost over right here. Just 3 more Spectral Shields got made. We're now up to 11, and Christopher Clay down to 2. I don't know if he's going to be able to get out of this one. This is looking grim for the Houstonite, as you were saying earlier,
yes,
the Houstonian.
The Houstonian, 11. I've never seen 11 Spectral Shields.
I don't know if I've ever seen 7.
Well, now we see 11.
Yeah.
11 Spectral Shields is... Oh, and this is finally what we were talking about earlier, a dominated attack, a dominated disable even. This doesn't have much utility currently, and that's going to finish the game. He flashes down in response a Merciful Retribution, and Merciful Retribution in this instance says, if you pop my Spectral Shields, you take damage for those Spectral Shields.
And there's 11 of them sitting there, so that's 11 that's coming to face, and that's going to seal the game for Tyler and his Prism deck, moving Christopher down to a loss here. And unbelievable stuff from Tyler and his Prism deck here. I got to revert back to the beginning of that game with the double tome into the library being just an unreal setup early game.
This entire game was absolutely insane for the Prism player in a very comfortable matchup for Control Prism as well. So credit to him for knowing how that matchup plays out in his favor and just taking full advantage of it with his draws and his plays.
Absolutely. Death by 1,000 cuts. We've seen it a couple times today, and Tyler's quickly moving up to being one of my favorites to win this tournament. He's X-1, really good shot at making this top 8. He's got one more round to go. If he wins that one, he will be in that top 8. But we're not done with this round just yet. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with some more Flesh and Blood. Welcome back to The Calling. I'm Tana and Grace. This is Armada. We just had a great match that was a little one-sided, but you said that was going to be a really tough matchup for the Bravo player. Yes. And Bravo gets a chance at redemption here at our second match this round.
Yeah, we're going to see Bravo facing off against a deck we haven't seen on stream yet. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Bravo deck, and then, as I'm burying the lead, we'll talk about the deck we haven't seen much of yet. This is the Bravo list we're looking at. I want to point out the one Tome of Fiendal. I love Tome of Fiendal. Most likely when you see that, they're also running the Mage Master boots down there in the equipment slot, and they are, so that you can do this really fun combo where you play Tome from Arsenal, gain a bunch of life, draw a bunch of cards, and go again off of the Mage Master boots. So that's a fun combo. This one's very red heavy and very threatening, as we see like 3 Enlightened Strikes, 2 Mangles, 3 red Pummels. A very cool list.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the ones that we were talking about earlier where they're trying to hit you and they're going to hit you really, really hard. So
yeah.
if you're a fan of big attacks, big attack reactions and stuff like that, this is the deck that you want to see. This is the deck that you're looking for, and we might see a little better out of it this round, where it's not just one of the worst possible matchups for it. But what is the matchup that it's got going this round?
Well, we're going to see this face off against Saber Bolton.
You really
a deck
did bury that lead.
I did. Saber Bolton is one of those decks that we had several conversations about before this entire event started. You were floored by the deck, just its raw power. I've talked to several other people that are seeing this deck for the first time at this event and just blown away by basically what it just combos off and equates to. It's a very cool deck.
Exactly. This was a deck that when I saw it the first time, it was unreal. I saw it do 30 damage, 32 damage in a single turn. It got really popular in Europe towards the RTN rounds. We saw it winning a bunch of tournaments. A lot of people were liking this deck when it was more unknown. There's some YouTube videos that came out and kind of explained it on like how to beat it, when does it look most threatening. The thing you're going to look for, from what I remember from the videos, is the turns where there's 3 or 4 cards in Soul for Bolton. Those are the turns that you really need to start worrying, especially if there's been an Arsenal card for a turn or two.
Sure.
That means that one of the combo cards is sitting there waiting and ready to go.
That's right. This is basically a combo deck that is looking to play Lumina Ascension and finding it through Beacon of Victory. Apparently yesterday there was a moment where a player that was playing Saber Bolton actually won off of a Beacon of Victory, which is super cool because it is an attack reaction. So this is a very scary deck to play against if they line the combo up, because they're going to deal some odd 30 damage and gain life off the top of that. So I'm really excited to jump into this one.
I'm also super excited to jump into this. So let's stop talking about it. Let's go ahead and move down to the future match, and let's get this started.
So both players here just noting 7 and 2. So both very much vying for that, trying to work their way into that spot, trying to get that win so that they can possibly cut in to the top 8. And we see here both players starting at 40 health and double block on the Anothos, and then gaining 3 life from the Sigil of Solace following it up.
Yeah, we are coming into the game in a tiny bit of progress, but not much has happened so far. Both players are at 40. It looks like we're getting one of the very first turns of the game, if not the first turn of the game.
And we'll be able to tell if this is the first turn of the game if the player, looks like Sir Bolton is drawing up. So this was literally just turn 1 of the game. Interesting block here, having to lose both Express Lightnings. Both red Express Lightnings makes you sad, but when you draw into 2 Command and Conquers, you're a little bit happier. You got your 4-card hand, you just jam a command.
Not only are you happy to see that, but you're happy to see that card in the arsenal.
That is exactly right.
Make sure you get all that extra value.
That is exactly right. Just jam down a Command and Conquer and say, do you want to keep that card? And there it is. There's the jam down. And it is a little awkward. Notice this Sir Bolton player is not playing any blue cards at all. So it's going to be one of those threadbare kind of things. And this is one of those interesting facts about Sir Bolton and about Saber Bolton in general, is oftentimes you're just relying on the perfect 4-card hand or 5-card hand with Arsenal to pay for that big combo turn. But even here, just 6.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a big Command and Conquer attack coming in. You're seeing equipment coming out to block. This is a big investment early in the game, so you got to believe that the Bravo player, Nam, really likes his Arsenal card here, is making sure that it doesn't go away.
It's a very interesting block, too, because he blocked with 2 cards from hand and an equipment. I guess he's worried about some over-the-top threat. Very interesting. He's perhaps he just really likes his Arsenal card and just wanted to be very safe. Nevertheless, he's going to create a Seismic Surge token. My favorite thing to do is Guardian. It feels very good to create Seismic Surge tokens every turn. And then coming in with a Nothos for 4.
Absolutely. One of the more powerful attacking weapons in the game. Makes sense, right? Big, strong guy with a ton of power. Gets this big, huge hammer to just whack you over the head with.
It is, and it's fun too because Anothos for 4 is one of those distillation end game kind of scenarios where both players are down to basically no cards in deck, and you have a single blue card, and you pitch it and you attack for 4, and it ends up beating 2 Kadachis if both players are in the same sort of location.
Yep, looks like we're going to clean the turn up here for Nam and draw up and send it back over. Still got that Arsenal card there, so maybe looking for a really big turn. This might be something like an attack reaction or something that he makes sure he doesn't really want to lose because he wants to make sure he gets one of those on-hit effects from a crush.
Could be one of those red pummels, you know. He's got 3 red pummels in the deck, so maybe he's saving that for a specific moment, but this is a very scary thing. He's going to do exactly what you do as Bolton. Take flight red, pitching a card, sinking a card into your soul, charging up, and so this take flight is coming across with go again guaranteed. Doesn't matter what they block with.
So we do see a block from the Bravo player here.
And it's a block with a non-attack, and it's interesting that he chooses to block with non-attack because the way that Bolton works is if you've charged on your turn and your opponent blocks with an attack action card on one of these attacks, oh, you know what? It looks like we were wrong this whole time. This is not Saber Bolton. I did not notice this until literally just now. It looks like the list perhaps was even a little bit different. Or maybe this is a deck that can shift between both. Apologies at home. He's playing Raiden Bolton, which is just straight charge. This is just a straight charge Bolton, which provides different levels of threats completely. I also want to point out he did block with a Mangle on the Raiden. The Raiden was attacking for 3, and it then moved to attack for 4. And there's equipment block.
We're seeing a lot of investment in blocking early here from the Bravo player. Is this something that you want to make sure that you do in this matchup is keep your life total high, or just defend yourself a little bit more?
It's very interesting. Perhaps he's thinking, I'm going to just go hard control, and I'm going to try to avoid taking as much damage as possible because my end game is an Othos for 4.
So we see that already. Showtime getting pitched here for a few resource points, and Othos for 4 coming on in.
I wonder if perhaps he's arsenaled that Tome of Fiendal. Maybe we have an Arsenal Tome of Fiendal. He's just waiting for the right time where he has cards in hand and he pitches a card, plays down the Tome from Arsenal, gains a bunch of life, and pops those Mage Master boots because he can draw a bunch of cards.
Well, that's a really good read, actually. It sounds like something that's... It feels like something like that is definitely going on.
And look, in his 2-card hand previous, he decided to block with multiple cards, pitch a blue, and then gain 3 life off of the Sigil of Solace. Ticking up the Tunic, I'm not good at ticking up the Tunic, I'll be honest.
Are you really bad at starting your turn doing that?
I have to tell myself every single time, start a turn, got to tick up the Tunic to 1.
Want to know a trick?
Yes.
Put something on top of your deck. Put like a die or something on top of your deck. Maybe it'll make you remember to do it.
Well, see, in normal games, when you draw at the beginning of your turn, you see the thing, right? But it's tricky. So what I do is I put something in my pitch zone.
There you go. That's actually better. That's way better.
Hello, because then you go to try and pitch and start your turn, and you're like, oh, yes, I must tick up my Tunic. Playing down one of the coolest art cards in Sir Bolton. I love that one. Just flying at you. This is great, too, because it's attacking for 4. Sinking a Celestial Cataclysm to charge it. And, oh, look, he just attack reacts. Gives it go again as well off of the Courageous Steel Hand. Buffing it up. It looks like it's yellow, so it comes across for 2 extra.
Now, all the Bravo player is at 44 here, and James is at 32. We're looking to have a big attack here this turn against the Bravo player. See how he's going to want to defend.
Oh, is he playing? It was a defense reaction this whole time. It was a staunch response this whole time. So all of that build up. I'm going to play down. I'm going to charge. Oh, and you know what? He baited. Well, you couldn't end up using the staunch response to a Command and Conquer anyway. And he steals, wow. He steals a Command and Conquer and a Spinal Crush from hand.
Yeah, 2 huge blocks from Nam here this turn. You've got to believe he's fully committed to the control game in this matchup with the way that he's just playing out most of his turns so far with all this blocking. Looks like he's going to Arsenal a card, draw 4, pass still at a healthy 44 here against the 32 from the Bolton player. We're back over the Bolton player.
That's exactly right. He's doing exactly what we talked about. He is playing for the late game. He's saying, whatever, I'll just lose all these powerful attacks, but I'm not going to take a bunch of damage, and you're going to have to find a way to lower my life total.
We've already seen some of the cards that he pitched on those very, very early turns. Those are going to come back around in this game when we make it to the bottom of the deck for the Bravo player. So it's on the Bolton player to try to possibly end the game before we get there. And here we go, starting out with another Take Flight.
Take Flight, going to attack for 3. It's going to charge, so it has go again. Charging an Engulfing Light red, which is a card you oftentimes want to use to threaten your opponent because there's an on-hit effect if you've charged to draw a card. And we have a Lumina Ascension. Now, Lumina Ascension is still incredibly powerful in Charge Bolton because it does still provide the buff if you've charged. It does still allow Raiden, which is free, to attack twice. And so still a fantastic card to play in this version of the deck. And looks like he is going to flip over. Unfortunately, and this is one of those things, he flips over and triggers the Lumina effect, but it does not show a light card. So he doesn't gain a life, and he doesn't get that card into Soul.
Yeah, for everybody at home, Lumina Ascension, it's a light warrior action, it's a Bravo specialization, and until its turn, the weapons you control gain a power. And then if it hits, you can reveal the top card of your deck like you were talking about. If it's a light card, you get to put it to your hero's Soul and gain 1, which is really important in this matchup because it's more of the free charging of the Soul. You don't have to use any cards from your hand or any additional costs or anything like that.
And he does it again, and he hits what looked like a red Plunder Run, so neither of those cards actually end up triggering and going into Soul and gaining him life. That is very unfortunate, and it's also one of those things that if you're deck building and you're thinking about Lumina Ascension, you are clearly incentivized not to put non-light cards into your deck. And look at this. He took all of that damage so that he could play a Mangle, dominated Mangle coming across. Very, very scary attack that is hard to deal with if it's dominated. And it is.
Yeah, for everybody at home, if a card is dominated, you can only block with 1 card from your hand.
That's correct.
You can maybe block with some of your equipment if you want. I don't know if we're going to have enough defense to block all of this, or have to see what James decides to do here this turn. But only 1 card from hand can be blocked.
That's right. And when you're playing the Charge Bolton, you're oftentimes playing with your Fiendal Spring Tunic, which blocks for 1 but breaks if it blocks. If you're playing the Saber Bolton variant, you generally play the Courage of Bladehold, which is far superior in blocking because it blocks for 2 and then for 1. But definitely not a good scenario to be in if you are James here, trying to decide, well, what card do I want to lose? Looks like he's going to toss down the Beacon of Victory.
I mean, yeah, you got to soak up some of this damage a little bit. This is the first real big attack from the Bravo player, but you know that this is just the start.
It can be. It definitely can be. So he's going to drop a card, and no, maybe he's eyeing these other cards in his hand. He's going to drop down that Beacon of Victory afterwards. I wonder if he chooses to block with the Brave Forge and the Skull Cap, or if he just doesn't care about the Crush effect.
Yeah, it's looking like this Crush effect is going to happen.
Coming on back and taking up the Tunic. Most likely didn't trigger. I think Mangle only has something like 7 power, and so it may have triggered or it may not have. Either way, when you're playing Charge Bolton, it's a very weird thing. You need cards in your hand so much more than some other classes because look at this, just a Fate Foreseen straight up. You need cards in your hand for Charge Bolton because you need the pitch to pay for the card that you want to attack with. You need the card, obviously, to attack with. Then you need something to charge so that you can trigger these hard to deal with effects. And so it's hard to block with Charge Bolton.
Oh, here we got another big attack here from the Bravo player. Looks like we're going to pitch 2 cards to get some resources. This is a Command and Conquer coming over to James, a card that has 6 power. This desperately needs to be blocked. This has an on-hit effect of taking away that Arsenal card. Yeah, from James here. So if he takes any of the damage here, he's going to lose a card, not from his hand, but from his arsenal, which is almost the same thing in a lot of these spots. Yeah,
you really want cards in arsenal. You want to play from 4 and 5 card hands when you are playing as a Bolton in general. It's one of those feast or famine decks, as I was saying. You need lots of cards to trigger lots of effects. He may just say here, because we can see that he does have his own Command and Conquer, he may just say, you know, I'm going to keep a yellow card and Command and Conquer and then just throw 2 cards away because I can just go Command and Conquer.
Yep, and you know, you might even be able to get a card out of the Bravo player's arsenal as well. It might be his end of his turn as well here too. So a lot of things to consider here on this block. You know, there's also to consider, you know, hey, my arsenal card, maybe it's not worth, you know, throwing away all these cards out of my hand. Maybe I get a bigger turn out of my own hand. So a lot of things to consider for James here. Plus, the damage itself represents quite a chunk of his life total.
Sure. And so you can see he's rifling through these cards one at a time. So he's put down Command and Conquer, likely saying, I want that card. And then he also, for a moment there, put down Lumina Ascension, likely saying, I want to arsenal that card. And so he may just go, I will not block anything. And, oh, no, he's going to block with 1 card from hand, which is an attack reaction that sometimes you just can't actually use. And block it all the way out, keeping his arsenal card. So maybe he has eyes of playing the Arsenal card so that he can then sink that Lumina Ascension and wait for the right time to use it.
Absolutely. This does kind of set up possible his future play as well, because the Bravo player ended their turn by arsenaling and drawing up. Now, there is a Command and Conquer in James's hand, so we're going to have to see if that's something that he's going to go for this turn to try to get a big hit on.
Oh, he's playing one of my favorite cards, V of the Vanguard, the perfect charge card. He's charging a card, paying the Tunic resource to play the V of the Vanguard. V of the Vanguard comes across normally for 3, I believe, but when you charge, it gets +1 for each card you charge into your soul, and everything else on the attack, like the combat chain, will also get +1 going forward, meaning you can do that Bolton thing where you immediately attack, react, and give everything go again.
Exactly. And you see the Bravo player is going to get a little bit of block on here. A card is removed from soul, giving go again here.
Oh, here it comes.
Here it is.
Command for 7.
This is the play that we're talking about. The Ascension goes into the pitch pile. This command is attacking for 7. Any damage gets through the Bravo player here. They are going to lose their arsenal. And 7 is a really hard number to defend.
It is that break point that you don't want to see when you're up against it, because you have to block with 2 cards from hand and an equipment, and that's probably what we see. Or he's just going to surrender. Oh, he's giving it go again so he can go Raiden. Most likely. I believe that's the line. But even this, look, he's going to destroy that card in Arsenal. And attacking for 4 with the Raiden Duskbane. Normally attacking for 3, but because it's been charged, attacking for 4. And yeah, there is the destruction on what was a red pummel. A tough card to have in Arsenal, not going to lie.
Yeah, you could only get it out of the Arsenal when you're attacking, attack reaction. We talked about this, that sometimes every now and then you'll see a game where a card gets stuck in Arsenal for a turn or two, and that can be very detrimental to the player that's at it.
It makes a ton of sense for him to just say, yeah, this is fine. You can clear out my Arsenal because I probably just can't use that if I'm blocking consistently anyway.
Yeah, the pummeled, while it's a good card in his deck, the way that he's playing this game is not really fitting into a lot of his turns for sure. So I like the way that Nam played that turn.
Very well said. That's exactly correct. He just says, yeah, I'll take the clear out. You did this for me. Thank you. So that I can put something more valuable in that for the future.
And that's actually a really good point, too. Sometimes you need to actually just get your arsenal cleared so you can put something else there that's maybe more readily usable. Exactly.
That's correct. If you're not trying to control that tempo and you don't have the ability to play that pummel onto, even just a middling attack, or even you're a Nothos, you can play it on a Nothos, then it's better sometimes just to be gone from your hand and from the game.
All right, we're back over to James here. He's going to charge a soul, attacking with a take flight here. Trying to kind of turn around the tempo of this game over these last few turns.
It's been very close. Look at the life totals, 23 to 25. Both players really trading blows, choosing to block, significantly, and then choosing to attack significantly as well. And so it's just been very interesting to actually see this play out. And look at this, a block with the equipment.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to get a block in here from the equipment from the Bravo player on this take flight. We'll see if there's any kind of attack reactions here. Maybe wants to give power, some go again, stuff like that. See what happens this turn.
Most likely at this point he's just going to continue playing a card from hand, and Valiant Thrust, a fantastic one. You didn't need to worry about giving go again to take flight because it already had it from the charge, but here you want to play down a Valiant Thrust so that you'd be able to gain the benefit from charging. Oh, and he just responds with the staunch response, says, no, I don't want to take any damage. No, thank you. I will just block it out. And as we draw back up and pass over to the Bravo player's turn, it looks like a very threadbare hand in general. He's going to create not a Spectral Shield. Too many Prism games in a row.
I know, right?
He's going to create a Seismic Surge, and then he's going to jam down another card and attack with an Othos for 6, I believe.
Absolutely. So you see the Surge Node here. The Anothos is in play, coming over towards James and Sir Bolton, and see if James wants to make any kind of blocks here. Weighing his options.
I love Anothos for 6. Anothos for 6 feels really, really good. Keeping a 2-card hand and just pitching them both away so that you can Spectral. Oh, and he's just going to respond for 6. By the way, I have a thing called Soul Shield that I can play. It's not just a Prism card. And it's going to block for 6, go to my Soul, allow me to set up one of those future big turns with charge.
Speaking of future big turns, too, I think we're getting pretty close to coming back around towards the bottom of the deck of the Bravo player, and we've seen some stuff being set up, so maybe looking for some big turns here soon.
Oh, this is a classic play. The Raiden for 0, and then an Arsenal and pass. Raiden does not have an attack value, and if you just push it out there and attack, it's for 0. And so your opponent can choose, I'm not going to block that, but maybe You have a Razor Reflex. Oh my goodness, and we have just not a not dominated Crippling Crush, a normal Crippling Crush, but still very scary. You do not want to see this card as a Bolton player because, again, Bolton just needs cards in his hand, and I'm either going to have to block this or I'm going to have to drop 2 cards anyway.
Right, because this is one of the ones where it's Crush Trigger, meaning if it deals 4 or more damage, makes your opponent discard 2 cards. So in some way, shape, or form, you're losing cards here no matter what. This is a card that it really makes something happen.
Yeah.
You can't just ignore it. You can't just be like, yeah, I'll take this damage. You're losing cards one way or the other, so this is a really good breakpoint card for the Bravo player. And you're going to see James really take his time deciding on what to do here. I saw he has a defensive reaction in his hand.
He does. I think he might even have 2. It looked like one of those was Steel Blade Shunt as well.
Definitely a Shunt, yeah.
So he could pitch and pay for Soul Shield. He could pitch and Steel Blade Shunt. And he can definitely smother this out. But he's basically saying, I'm not going to have a turn next turn. And look, there's the 6. And oh, no, it's a sink below, excuse me. So he is blocking for 10. And he's not worried about taking any crush damage. He is going to sink the card below and draw the top card.
I don't think it's too much to ask, but I want to see some Crush stuff happen on camera. We've been having a hard time of having anyone trigger Crush this weekend. I really want to see these big attacks happen and work.
I think this is one of those things about Crush, though. Crush is hard to trigger. It is difficult to trigger because you do have to guarantee 4 damage, and it's why you want to play Pummel, but there's just so many things that you have to pay for as Bravo that sometimes you just can't line it up. And here we have Illuminate for 4. Just casual 4 being blocked by a casual 4 Fate Foreseen, opting the card on top of the deck to the bottom and passing on over.
A draw back up here for James, moving over to the Bravo player Nam. Let's see if he can get another big attack here. Maybe get, to finally trigger one of those crushes that I've been wanting to see all game. Looks like a defenses is going to be put away and an activation of a Bravo here with those resources. A few more resources going to be gained. This looks like a big attack here being set up by the Bravo player.
Coming in with Choke Slam and dominated Choke Slam at that, but again, he's only attacking with the blue, so not nearly the threat that you would love to see if you're playing as Bravo. He is pitching 2 blue cards to pay for this entirety, of the effect. So those blue cards will cycle to the bottom. As you've been hinting at over the past couple of turns, those cards are going to make their way back around, and oftentimes you just end up with a deck full of blues as a control Bravo player. So knowing how to use those blues and knowing what blues you actually can, use as threats towards the end of the game is something to think about.
Yeah, because that's really important. Like you were saying, a lot of times it gets to a point where you're just trying to attack with your weapon over and over and over again as the game goes on.
And you want some blues that can trigger a Nothos' effect to gain +2 and attack for 6, essentially.
Now, this block can be kind of important. This is one of the ones where its Crush effect says that your opponent's stuff can't gain power during their turn. They can't be, buffed in any kind of way. So see a little bit of a block from James here. He's going to be going down to 19. Bravo's turn looks like it's going to be done. He's going to draw back up with an Arsenal card here and moving back over to James.
And I do believe in the Arsenal, I think I caught this earlier, maybe I'm incorrect, but in the Arsenal there's a Via the Vanguard, a Via the Vanguard, another very powerful. Doing the same play as before. Oh, and look at this. He's sinking 2 cards. This is pushing this to 5. He has the stuff he needs to attack react, of course, to give this go again. And if the other card in his hand is Bolting Blade, and I do believe he has 1 card left in hand, perhaps. If this is Bolting Blade, this will be a Bolting Blade for 28,000. No, not really.
Is that the real number, or?
I hope so. That'd be fantastic. Oh my gosh.
It feels like we're playing a different card game at this point.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, that's a completely different game. But it will be for a lot if this is a Bolting Blade. He is going to attack react, give it go again, as you do. Coming across, dropping down. Let's see what he's, I guess, thinking of a defense reaction.
Picking up some resources here.
Yeah. The only reason you pitch here is to play a defense reaction, and most likely going to play
defenses. Yeah.
Yep, unmovable. Coming across, blocking it all out, which is fine because, oh, and there's the attack with the Raiden. Raiden's coming across for 5 as well. Normally, because you charge, it goes to 3. Going to attack react. It's so fun to play via the Vanguard.
Nice little defense reaction here, too. Sink below. Looks like a card went to the bottom, so we're going to get a fresh card here for the Bravo player. Love getting the full effect of these cards.
Yeah, you do. And this is still leaking 1 point of damage, so you are pushing something here. And is it? No, it's just going to be an Engulfing Light. A threatening card, though, by itself, because it does, on hit, draw him a card.
It looks like the Bravo player still here thinking about doing even more defending this turn. It looks like 2 cards coming from hand to get a defense. Looks like for the full 5 blocked here, so lots of attacks with a ton of power this turn from James, but only a tiny bit of damage getting through. So we're moving back over to Bravo. It looks like they're going to just draw their hand back up and pass.
Yeah, Via the Vanguard is the power card, one of the several power cards in Bolton. So when you see one of those come down, and especially when you see him charge a third V and another card to really try and push damage, you say, okay, this is a turn where I want to defend and be safe. This is a turn where I don't really care about my turn coming. I just want to not die. Engulfing Light yellow, charging a card. Engulfing Light's great because you don't have to pay for it.
It looks like we got a charge here, and looks like we have a defense from the Bravo player card from hand, kind of soaking up some of the damage here.
This is good too because he defended with a non-attack action card, so it's not or it's an aura, so it's not going to trigger the +1 from Bolton since he did charge.
I think that's going to end the turn for James and draw back up to 4 and move back over to the Bravo player, who actually has cards in his hand this turn, so he might finally get to do some stuff.
That's right. He's going to do that thing. He's going to do that thing. There it is. Attack with an Othos.
He's doing it. He's doing it. Wait, it's the thing we've done
attack
15
with an
times.
Othos.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the play. You're playing control. You're just going to attack with your weapon and say, I'm playing for the late game. What are you doing?
Yeah, you know what? Coming into this weekend, I didn't think we'd see this many people take their heroes in this much of a defensive way. And I'm starting to really appreciate it, how much thought process goes into it, how much deck building process goes into it, and realizing what you can and can't pitch early in the game because you know that you're going to be getting back to those cards.
Yeah, and think about how much practice and how long these practice sessions might take because you are playing a control deck and you're playing to the end game where both players have just exhausted their resources and attacks.
Just thinking about it makes me need a nap.
Yeah, well, we could probably grab one of those later, but right now I think I want to see the conclusion of this. I am very curious to see if James is going to be able to find the threats he needs, and he has one in hand right now. In fact, that's not true. He has several threats right now. Very scary hand. A Celestial Cataclysm. He has the resources to pay for that in his soul. He also has a Lumina Ascension that he could set in his arsenal or just play, and he is going to do the Celestial 7 and go again. All you got to do,
again, having to remove 3 cards from his soul.
That's right. All you got to do is drop 3 cards from soul.
This is one of the cards you talked about early in the game that we got, pitched away to make some resources. We can't really make a lot of use out of it early because we're not going to have 3 cards in our soul. But, like we just keep saying, these decks come back around as the game goes on. So you can set up your big plays. This looks like we're going to have a defense reaction out of the Bravo players. This is Sink Below, putting a card from his hand at the bottom of his deck and drawing him a new card.
Sink to 4 and then takes 3 damage. So he is whittling his life down here. But this is you have to do more. You have to do more against the control. And this Valiant Thrust is fine. It's a solid attack. It is not triggering off of like a charge, so it doesn't get the buff from its effect, but it's still presenting some level of damage, and it's allowing him to arsenal that Illumina Ascension most likely that we saw in his hand earlier.
I got a block from hand as well here, a Showtime seeking up some damage.
Yep.
Looks like that's going to end the turn here with an arsenal from James. He's going to clean it up, drop to 4 cards here. Both players at 17, so game's getting a little bit closer to that end. We're going to see what Nam can do on his turn.
Yep. Coming across with maybe an attack, or maybe he's just content again to pitch, create a Seismic. Oh, and there's the Mage Master Boots. Is it? It is. Look, it's a Toma Fiendal. Draw 2 cards, gain some life, go again, and
this is the play that you were setting up the whole time beforehand, talking about this. This is a big turn here for the Bravo player. Back up to 20. Still got a few cards left in his hand.
Yeah.
He's got some resource points going, and he's still got an action point. This is exactly what he needed at this point in the game.
Yeah, I mean, this is the reason that you play Mage Master Boots, so that you can do exactly this moment, exactly this turn, gain some life, get some cards, attack for 6, profit. Checking through the discard pile here, looking at your threats, most likely looking at your threats that you have remaining in the deck, and you look through that along with him, and you realize there have been a lot of threats already played. And looking at the banish, there's a V of the Vanguard that was banished earlier. There's a Celestial Cataclysm that's gone. His threats are dwindling. So anything he has in his hand right now, he has to really consider holding and just maybe taking 6 because you don't have very many turns left to really drive pressure home.
Exactly, and that's a big thing that we talk about with some of these control decks is as the game goes along, the cards that you pitch versus the cards that you play or get removed, charging your soul, taking them out. You have to make sure that you actually have enough stuff left in your deck to finish the game when you get towards that finish line. And sometimes you just run out. You're doing so much to get through. Your opponent's making so many defensive reactions that you have to try to push as much as you can. And sometimes you just don't have enough.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly right.
If James does, Bravo's going to clean it up here, draw 4 cards. We're back over to the sort of Bolton player, and it looks like we are going to start this turn off with an attack.
Yeah, coming in with Bolt of Courage, charging a card that you're really happy to charge in Soul Shield because it's going to go to Soul if you block with it, but it's nice to also use it as a charge. Beacon of Victory coming across as an attack reaction, getting rid of a card from your Soul, which allows you to go and search for a threat. Perhaps that Lumina Ascension, which we already know one's in his deck or one's in his arsenal, so the one in his deck could come out and we could have a double Lumina turn, which can get very threatening. Thinking about it, I think that may be the play. You can't pick Celestial Cataclysm.
He wanted to, though. You could tell. He was stopping, taking a real long look at that Cataclysm. Maybe, honestly, he might already know what he was trying to get, and he's just going through his deck to see what's left, counting up some of the damage. This is the thing that, you could do in a card game like this. When you get to finally search your deck, you see what's left, and you kind of create a plan from here instead of just going straight for the card that you want. Hey, what do I have left? What resources are going to be available to me over the next few turns? Let me craft a plan from there.
Interesting choice. He's going to just pick an attack that provides value. He's not worried about, grabbing and trying to do a double Lumina turn with a Raiden and maybe not enough resources or ways to give it go again. He's just going to give Illuminate for 4 a try. Presenting the deck, of course, you have to, after you've searched through your deck and picked your card, you allow your opponent to cut after you've shuffled.
Yeah, sufficient randomization is important.
Yes, of course. And is he going to choose to just slam down the Illuminate red? It's going to go to Soul after, if it connects. Oh, he's got to give go again off of the Snapdragons. And look at this. As a defense reaction, just says, nope, yeah, your attack still doesn't hit.
Yep. Card goes to the bottom there, gets a new fresh one. You got to love where you're at if you're the Bravo player here after seeing a lot of this stuff that's going on. This does look like a Luminous Ascension, though, and now an attack from the Blade.
It was a Lumina coming in for 4. And I guess he's choosing to spread the Luminas out rather than stacking them up in a one sort of alpha strike turn, which is what more the Saber Bolton is looking to do.
Absolutely. We are seeing a block from hand, but a little bit of damage is going to get through here. The Sir Bolton player, is getting really low in life total. He's getting down to 11 here, but Bravo is up to 19.
Gains a life off of this trigger because he does sink a card off the top of his deck into his Soul because it's a light card, and it's going to allow him to attack again, which is always great. It's what you want to do. And I love that at this break point, too, attacking for 4, it's one of those scenarios where you are going to do leak damage. Ooh, great usage of the card that he fetched, Brave Forge Bracers, onto the Raiden Duskbane, pushing this to 5 instead of 4, giving an attack react go again as well.
As we went from maybe not getting in too much damage turn to we're starting to push a lot and do a lot of things here.
This is the power of Lumina Ascension, and he flips over another light card, gains another point of health. Bravo took the 5, and there is an attack react go again, so he could follow this up with, a Valiant Thrust. It is yellow, but it is going to gain the attack, and this is a very threatening Valiant Thrust. Asking your opponent, do you want to take more damage? Because I could present it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Using the resource point off the Tunic here as well, getting that extra point that you get every 3 turns, really, really important in matchups like this when they're going to go long and you need just that one extra resource point sometimes to push this card across.
That's right. And he's just going to take it, and I think he's doing so because he just realizes if I want to have a turn where I present some sort of a threat, then I need enough cards in hand to attack with an Othos.
Yeah, Bravo player.
Oh, just kidding. No, he's going to Enlighten Strike for 7. Never mind.
This is a decent threat here, too.
Yes, it is. Enlighten Strike for 7 does indeed provide a threat. And again, this is smart because Bolton doesn't want to drop cards. This is late game. We are in the end game now, and you don't want to drop cards to block. But you're okay.
Steel Blade Shunt.
You're okay using this for Shunt.
Yeah, nice little defense reaction. It's going to soak up some of the damage and deal the damage to the Bravo player here on the way out.
Yeah, well, I don't think it'll deal the damage on the way out because of the. It'll only trigger that off of the weapon attack, which is actually a good play we should talk about because you can do that at a Nothos against a Nothos, and we could actually see if he can sneak up a couple more points of damage, he could win off of a Steel Blade Shunt.
Have you ever seen anyone win a game off a Steel Blade Shunt? That would be the worst way to go, I think.
Okay, yes, you definitely have seen games where people went off a Steel Blade Shunt. And another one. And another one. Look at him go.
Another huge attack here from the Bravo player, probably forcing James to have to do some blocking here. Like you said, this is something that he doesn't really want to do if he can avoid it here at this point of the game. He needs to make sure he has enough cards in his hand to present enough damage to win the game. But taking a lot of damage here looks really scary from the Bolton player because you know that some of these big attacks are lurking and waiting for the Bravo player.
And in his hand, too, again, he's looking at this because in his hand he's got Lumina Ascension, he's got Beacon of Victory. He's got an attack that you want to use to charge so that you can then trigger that Lumina Ascension. And he has an Arsenal card, which I don't remember what his Arsenal card is. Perhaps we know that, perhaps we don't. He even has a Courageous Steel Hand, which is a great attack reaction if you can push some damage. Very threatening, and your opponent has to just respect it. And look, he's just going to take it.
Yeah, you got to believe. Oh, here comes another E-Strike.
So it looks like he went 5 go again on the first one.
Yeah,
and that
James
dropped
down
him
to
down to
7.
7.
Yep.
And then this one's probably just for 7. We've had all three back to back to back. This is crazy. And this is lethal.
Three of a kind dealer. What do I win?
Yeah, well, welcome to Vegas.
I know, right?
This
is the right city for it.
This is crazy because this, again, like I said, presents lethal. He has some options. He can keep his hand. He can drop to, 2? He could toss the Tunic out there. He could toss the Skull Cap out there. He could toss the Bracers out there. He could keep his entire hand and try to present lethal back.
Yeah, the Tunic really got its value, getting that extra resource point, and I don't know if this game's going to go another couple turns where you can get that resource point back, so maybe that's a thing he's going through his mind. He wants to use the Tunics, just get some value out of the card and get some of the defense going on, and like you said, it's so important that he keeps his card in his hands. You're going to see James really take his time here because this is the play that I think that's going to decide the game.
Yeah, and look, he's reaching for at least those. It's also very difficult, too, because you have to remember, if worst comes to worst, Bravo just says a Nothos for 4 every turn. So when you do this, when you go to 2, you've all of a sudden entered that. It's almost like you're playing against Katsu when they just have, you're at 1 and they're just Kadachi range, right? This is very much the same thing. But he did this so he could do exactly this play. And this actually could present lethal, and he's going to block, I think, the correct way here. He does get the Courageous Steel Hand off, and he gets the go again. So he is pushing damage over the top, unless there's a defense reaction. Is there a defense reaction?
Nam definitely needs one or some blocking that's going to go on the start because he's about to take a decent bit of damage here. This game is
about
to come to its conclusion. Looks like he took it down to 6.
And there's the Lumina Ascension. We did have a charge, so he is going to come across for 4 with Raiden. We know it can attack a second time via Lumina Ascension, so now he's going to threaten 4 + 4. Life gain is huge here. So flipping off the top of the deck into a light card is huge if he can land it.
Yeah, this is definitely why you saw him block the way they did the last turn.
Yeah.
To make sure that he kept these cards in play. Because huge,
There's
huge
the
player,
fate
the defensive
for
reaction.
Attack, react, give, and go again. Doesn't hit. So this is the end of the turn because he has no way to give go again. So whatever's his Arsenal card is not going to provide him a benefit. It's smart to block the first one because you don't want an attack react. And unfortunately, he doesn't look like he's going to be able to block this one. So there may be 1 point of life gain here, but this is the end of the turn.
Nam considering what to do here if he wants to block or maybe take the risky play of taking the damage here but keeping some cards in his hand so he can present lethal on the way back. I find that these are the games that get really difficult when you're both at a very, very low life total and you have to walk that tightrope of, do I block? Do I just take it? Because I need to have some cards in my hand so I can attack back. This is where the tempo swings really, really come into play.
And he misses the life gain because he reveals a sink below off the top. By the way, Nam just decided, I'm going to block, not with a card from hand. I'm literally just going to block with Arcanite Skullcap for 1 and take the rest of it. Dropping to 3. Look at this game, 3-2. And he does have a shunt. He just didn't get enough damage through on the last turn. We could have seen a shunt win the game right now.
You almost willed it into existence.
But instead, he's going to have to just absolutely respect all of these. And look, the shunt does deal 1 damage.
It is a defensive reaction that gets in some damage here, so it's kind of hard to miss more value from it here.
Oh, and the Remembrance goes and fetches him whatever he wants. He's going to fetch up to 3 action cards from his discard pile. And he's going to add those back into the deck. And then, of course, banish the Remembrance.
And this is a deck that is quite small now, too. So there's a very good chance that he's going to see some of these cards that he's putting back in his deck. What are you looking for here if you're doing the remembrance.
Honestly, you may just be looking for ways to not die. You may just be looking for ways to outlast the opponent. I don't know if you need to go and get, and look, yeah, he's just grabbing Blessing of Deliverance. Blessing of Deliverance has the effect of actually possibly gaining you life, and that's exactly the position you want to be in right now, because you have more outs, I think, in this scenario as Bravo than you do as Bolton, especially if you can just rip cards from hand by going Anothos for 4 every turn. And look, yeah, he's going to search and fetch out a Stamp Authority and 2 Blessing of Deliverances. He's going to shuffle those into the deck and then banish the Remembrance.
That deck's looking mighty small, too, as well, so very good chance that he's going to be drawing some of these cards the next turn or two, if not right away.
Welcome to Control. We just play to the end game. Taking up the Tunic to 2. 2-card hand. No way to play that Cataclysm. All you're going to do is send that and probably charge the Cataclysm.
So we got an attack coming in.
Yep.
At the Bravo player, this is technically a lethal attack, so some kind of defense is going to need to happen here.
An easy attack, of course, to block here. Both players at 2, so you don't have the block on the Skull Cap for the Bravo player because he's not less life. But just content jamming down 1 card. There is something you do need to worry about, and that's an attack reaction from the Arsenal. It wasn't there, but he could have just won the game off the attack reaction.
Yeah, there's a, I was supposed to ask, is there any time there where you actually need to overblock for this kind of thing?
Yes.
But because it is a little scary, that'd be a horrible, horrible way to go this late in the game that's been this great. And so we see.
And look in the hand. We see pitching to play another Steel Blade Shunt, dropping the Bravo player to 1.
And this is really scary here if you're Nam, because you know that like now even your attacks could possibly kill you.
And there's a Sigil of Solace that was also in his hand. He gains 3 life. Now this is good for Nam in the sense that now he does have a block on the Skull Cap. But 1 more Steel Blade Shunt wins the game for James.
So Nam down to 1. He's going to draw his cards back up here. It looks like he's got an Arsenal card as well. We're back over to James's side. Back up to 5 here after gaining life that turn. It looks like we're going to start off on the attack here.
Valiant Thrust. This doesn't have the capacity for go again unless Nam blocks with an attack action. He, by the way, did a great job of building up that Tunic over the course of the next few turns. Staunch Response, just say, nope, yeah, you're not gonna overcrush me or anything like that. Not coming across.
Looks like that's going to be it for James's turn. He's going to draw back up. Still got this card in the arsenal. That card is no longer, there we go. The card's no longer in chain.
He's got another gain 3 Sigil of Solace in his hand. And
for a second, you're about to say he had another shunt.
oh my God, if he had another shunt, this was like game over. Just Nam coming right across, and there's the block with the Spring Tunic finally, which is smart.
Yeah, I doubt we're going to have another resource point come off of this. I don't know if this game's going to go another 3 turns. Definitely want to get some value out of the card if you can. And this is
Did he just pummel over the top? He pummels for an additional 4 damage. This is coming across for, and wait, does he have the resources for the 6? So this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Coming across for 10, that leaves 9 coming across. Sigil of Solace only gains him 3.
So James going to go up to 8 here.
And that's the game. I believe that just does it.
Wow.
The red pummel on the Anothos finishes it. He got a little bit greedy trying to just block with
just a little bit, yeah.
Just block with the Tunic and say, I want a hand of cards. I want to throw them at you. And in doing so, he opens himself up to the pummel, and even gaining 3 life couldn't save him at the end.
This is something that we talk about a lot during these matches, too. I mean, we saw that pummel get pitched for resource, I think, like turn 2 of the game.
Wow.
So we got all the way back through the deck, even with restocking some cards from the discard pile back in the deck, and ended up winning the game. And this is something I kind of expected to happen, and this was like a defense or an attack reaction being that impactful late in the game, just because they don't happen that much.
And it almost happened the other way too.
Right,
we almost had a shunt for the win as a defense reaction, but instead we got a red pummel for the win. And it's always fun to see an attack reaction finish off the game. It's exciting.
All right, I need a breather after that one. I don't know about you, so we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with more Flesh and Blood.